Happy Friday, everybody. It's Paul Fleming here with your chamber check-in. And today we have opportunity to check in with Director of Business Development for Cottonwood Creek Behavioral Hospital, Brenda Wilson. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Paul. It's nice to be here. What a great opportunity to share our story.
Hey, thanks. That's what these are all about, right? Is to help chamber members gain a little bit of exposure, tell the audience and other chamber members in the community what your products and services are. And this is a great day today because there's been a lot of information out there about mental health and how to get connected with people. It's so important now. So this is a great opportunity to learn a little bit about Cottonwood Creek Behavioral Hospital. So with that, today we're going to do a couple things differently. We're going to take a virtual tour of the hospital with you as well. So that's going to be fun. But for the last couple of years, you guys have evolved into what you are now. So why don't you take us back to the beginning with that new space and the launch of the remodel?
Sure. Okay. So we, in January of this year, we will have been open for 2 years. We opened up with an adult unit to start out with. And then I came in the second month of being open. So February 25th will be my 2-year anniversary here. Pretty cool. And what happened was that we found that there was a need for a choice. We wanted people to have the opportunity to choose where they go and what they want in terms of a behavioral health hospital. And we found that this was the perfect area to do it. And when we decided on a building, we took the old Vibra building that used to be here. So it was already in place. And then we took everything down to the studs on the inside and then built it with behavioral health in mind. So everything that you see on our virtual tour, and when we can give real tours after time passes a little bit, you'll see things that were done in order to be safe and effective for behavioral health treatment, which is a lot different than what most buildings you'll see when you go through them. So I'll point some of that stuff out when we go through the slideshow. And you can see that they really did take a lot of time to make sure they did this right and make it feel like a comfortable place to be for healing.
When I think of behavioral health, I think of our legacy institutions like Intermountain Health Hospital that are helping people through. And now you guys provide this additional choice. Tell us what kind of services, just a high-level overview that you guys provide the community.
Sure. So we are acute care hospitalization and intensive outpatient. So what that means is if you are a member of the community that is in acute crisis, you have suicidal or homicidal ideations, you are in a manic state, schizophrenia, manic depressive disorder / the bipolar. If you're going through an acute crisis, then we are here to help you go through that process and heal and find out maybe what's triggering it or how we can help. That's 24/7. So we are available. You just call the admission line and then we can help you through that process, make sure that you meet criteria, because there is criteria for acute crisis versus just, someone who's not feeling well. So there is a little differentiation. And then we have the opportunity as a step down to go through our intensive outpatient program. And that's a 3-day a week, 3 hours a day, both for our adults and our adolescents. And it just makes sure that they have that step down from maybe inpatient, or if they need something more than maybe just being at a counselor once a week, a couple times a month, it just makes sure that we give them that extra stuff that they need in order to keep them safe and healing and growing.
Has there been an elevated amount of people that have needed your service? Have you experienced that recently?
I have. Like I said, this will be 2 years in February that I will have been here. When I first began as a liaison, and I still do a lot of liaison work, even though I'm a director. I'm always out in the community working with people. And we were always hearing about the need for adolescent services. So over a period of time, I would come back to the hospital and I'd tell them what the community wanted. And we ended up in last year opening up our adolescent unit because the community was asking for it. They needed more beds for our kids because they were seeing a change. And this was prior to COVID, the word that I do not like to use, but we have to use it. But even prior to COVID, there was a need for additional beds for our adolescent population. And so we did our open house. You guys were there, which was fantastic. The governor came, and he spoke on behalf of supporting mental health and positive places for our adolescents to go. I think we had 150 people from our community come and support us in that prosperous event, right? To make sure that we heard, and then we did what the community. And then add to that, COVID comes along, and we continue to see a need, the increase. People didn't have the skills that they needed in order to through something like this. And so not only did adult population increase, but our adolescent population who needed acute crisis care increased. And again, we were able to bring in new beds. So now we are a 92-bed hospital because we knew this is what we needed to do in order to serve our community.
That's awesome. Well, hey, without further ado, let me try this new way to do a virtual tour.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Hey, we did it. Okay.
There it is.
All right.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and talk and tell me when to move your tour.
Okay, perfect. Well, I thought it would be a great opportunity for people who would like to know what a behavioral hospital might look like. Prior to COVID, we were able to do tours for our professionals in the community so that they could see when they are referring their patients to a place like us, they would know what that looks like. So this will give the opportunity for people to see if they ever were in need of it, if they have family members, or if they just want to see what happens inside a behavioral health hospital, we give them this opportunity. So this is the front of the hospital, very beautiful, lots of tall windows. It's a one-story building, which was very important to us. And this was not in the summertime, but still a very beautiful front. It's a nice place to enter when you are coming in, either if you're coming in with a family member or if you're coming with a transport service, it's very welcoming and inviting. So, all right, you can switch. Like I talked about, we are a new hospital. We aren't new to behavioral health. We're just new to the area. Like I said, 2 years. And we provide services for adolescents 12 to 17, and then adults 18 and up. We have the inpatient services and outpatient services. And the next slide, when you go there, it will talk a little bit about what our service lines include. And a lot of times these service lines come about by community need. Like I talked about adolescents, we needed more space for them. Another thing that you'll notice in the middle, the alcohol and benzodiazepines, and I'll talk about that later, that we now can offer that service. So for adolescents, we offer inpatient acute stabilization along with our adult population. And there's a different acuity level that we work with. We work with very high acuity patients. Our older adult population is a very strong group here, and they get a lot of good support. Then again, detox, alcohol and benzodiazepines, we are able to take care of that as well. And then what we have on the inpatient side, we mirror on the outpatient. So we have our adolescent intensive outpatient, our adults, and then an older adult population as well. And if you have any questions as I go through this, let me know. Okay, then switch to the next slide. Okay, so when you first walk into the building, it is pretty big, open space. What's that?
This is your waiting room.
Okay.
Go ahead, continue.
Yes, yeah, so when you walk in, you can go through these doors here, and this is where patients can wait for their assessment or the admissions, be able to come in and talk with you. If you were to come in here, I would ask you to try to lift those chairs. That's one of the cool things. Is these chairs are so heavy, you would probably have to be Thor to be able to pick them up and chuck them across the room. So if you were coming in very angry and very agitated, they made sure that the things in here were still beautiful to look at, still nice and calming, but also safe. And what I don't know if the viewers are able to see, but all the little arms are rounded, so there's not something sharp that someone can hurt themselves with. There is a television that you'll see over in the corner, and that's behind shatterproof glass. All the cords are inside, so everything is incredibly safe, so a person couldn't hurt themselves while they're in this room. And there are also cameras on either side that our admissions are able to keep track of what's happening in this room, as well as reception. And that's just kind of an example. And then here is after they get through that sub-waiting room is what we call it, then they're brought into an assessment room. Now, they will not be left in these rooms alone. You'll see that there is what we call a ligature risk. And what that means is that you could wrap something around and hurt yourself with it, most likely drop to the floor, right? But even with a chair that has little spindles, you could still harm yourself with that. So again, patients wouldn't be here by themselves. Make sense?
Absolutely.
And then in here, they're giving us, a psychological examination, a mini medical exam. And that's kind of just where we get to know about the nuts and bolts of what's happening. Now, this is one of our treatment rooms in terms of where all of our doctors, psychiatrists, where the social workers, where we all meet together in the morning and discuss patients and what the treatment's looking like, what they need, what might be going well. So it's really nice. And they call it a multidisciplinary approach to treatment because we have all modalities there together to make sure that the treatment is what is absolutely the best for that particular patient. All right. So here are some other pictures and some slides that show some things that we have inside where the actual patients are. In the top over on the left, that's our courtyard. This is a very, very popular place for our patients because it's a beautiful space. It is actually encased by the building. So your safety is within the building. It's not chain link fence with those barbed wire all at the top or anything. It feels like just a really beautiful courtyard. And we did have to take away the trees because, again, ligature risk. We don't want that. And then what's really nice is everything is just bolted down so it's safe. And we've had patients in the spring like to weed out there. And then even in the winter time, they enjoyed the snow. So they have that opportunity to be outside in a beautiful place and see the sky. In that middle picture there is an example of one of the group rooms. Absolutely. There you go. I should take you on my tours now. Good work. So that would be where our group rooms and where some of our activities might occur. Now, there are more chairs in there than we use now. This was a picture pre-COVID. So we've decreased the amount of space and all the chairs are separated. We have circles on the floor to help direct patients. This is 6 feet apart. They keep their chairs there and we're safe. And then the bottom picture is an example of where they can hang out and they can talk. They can do some of our louder type of activity therapy, like music therapy. We have pet therapy. And so you need a bigger space for that. And so that's an example. And then they've done things like karaoke night. They can watch TV. And again, all of the things within here are very safe, patient-centered, and make sure that they're able to heal, but also they're able to experience what it means to interact with each other and use those coping skills that they've been given. All right, it's 92 licensed bed. This is absolutely fantastic. It's been a really nice thing to be able to add to our spaces.
Yep.
We don't have private rooms, so to speak, anymore because all of our rooms now have 2 beds to maximize need. However, if you are a person who needs a private room, it's no additional charge and it's just based on need. So we can keep one of those beds empty and then you can have your own private room if it's necessary for you. Underneath those beds, well, not underneath, but to the edge of the bed, you'll see, if you can, 2 little areas that are locked and you can open that. And that's where we place, most of the belongings of the patient. They don't like to be without their stuff. And it's not to say that they get access to it, right? You try taking cell phones from people, not cool. But if they know that their phone is in their area, locked up and safe and secure, then that anxiety goes down. And then if there's something, if we need to retrieve a phone number of a family member, because we don't memorize phone numbers anymore, we can do that. You will notice, hopefully you can see, especially on this bottom picture, the slant of the door. So all the doors have that slant, and all of like the doorknobs are recessed. And what that means is if you were to try to wrap something around that door and drop, it's just going to slide right down, right? So you can't hurt yourself by wrapping something and dropping. Our showers and the bathrooms have the same kind of concept in the sense that all the plumbing is inside, so you can't hurt yourself, you can't flood yourself. And then the shower curtains are weight-free. So what I always wanted to do on one of these tours when we had them in person is to show people how you could just put some weight on it and it would fall, but apparently it's really difficult to get back up. So I never got to try it. But if you have any weight on that, it'll just come right out of the ceiling and you won't hurt yourself. And then rounded shower heads, everything's nice and round.
You guys have done a great job with the preventive portion of this with the remodel.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other thing I think is really fun is, and I don't know if there's a picture here or we may have not been able to see it, but it's called a piano hinge. So if you think of your doors, right, your hinges, you usually have 3 or 2. And that's a ligature risk because you could actually get in between that gap and wrap, right? Well, okay. All of the hinges on the doors from top to bottom is one long hinge, which we call a piano hinge. So you can't do that. So that's just another one. I get really excited when I get to talk about all of the things that we've done to keep people safe. It's pretty cool. All right, next slide. This is just an example of what it would look like for the day. Obviously, it changes, but this is just a sample. We try to keep them busy and make sure that everything is useful. You know, it's not a waste of time. And then you just get some.
And Brenda, this is great structure for people who haven't had any structure in a while. So it creates kind of a habit for them.
Yes, good. That's absolutely right. Both for our adults and our kids. If you have a routine, it is so much helpful, especially when you start feeling anxious or depressed, or you're getting worried about something. If you know what your schedule is, it is incredibly helpful. And that's for people who've never even had psychiatric issues. Just knowing that you get up, you do this, you do that, it helps you all the way around. So that's a good point. And then these are just some additional pictures of just the space, just so you can kind of see it's clean, it's beautiful. Too bad you can't smell it because it smells fantastic. You know, our staff does such a great job of keeping it clean and, you know, making sure that we disinfect and we make sure that, you know, we do what we need to do in order to keep people safe.
I love that slide.
Thank you. All righty. I did talk about that we have an outpatient service. It's called intensive outpatient. And this entrance is to the side of the hospital. So if you were coming into intensive outpatient, you do not go through those front doors like people would go for inpatient. It's a separate area. It's still attached to the hospital, but it has its own lobby, has its own reception. So really, it's its own space. Now, the cool thing, though, I will say about this, and the fact that it's still connected, is that if you are stepping down from inpatient hospitalization, okay, and you're ready to go back out into the community, but you're not quite ready to do it, you know, on a weekly basis with a counselor, we can walk you over here for an assessment, and it's right here. You're familiar with the surroundings. You're familiar with the people. It's right there, and it's ready for you. But here's something else. There are people who just go into intensive outpatient because they know they need something more. They're not acute enough yet that they need to go into inpatient. But if anything were to happen, they're in a safe space and we can walk them over, go through that admission process, and get them the help they need right away.
Awesome.
And then this is an example of the group rooms. Again, it's less over on the, there you go. Less chairs, but in the summertime we had groups and we were outside under a canopy. So we made sure that it worked well. And we wanted to really try our best to make sure that the people that needed our services could get those in person, because that's so important. It's very important for that. And then the offices here, this would just be an example if you're sitting there talking to a counselor after, or if you have questions or whatever. It's still a very beautiful space, and it continues that color scheme. So you just feel like you're going from one place to another. Pretty nice. And this is the end. Here is our last slide. We are here when you need us. We want you, and we want our community. That's the thing that I believe the most about all of this, is that we want to be a part of the community. We want you guys to all know that we're here for you, and you'll see us at different events when we are allowed. Before, we were out all the time in places where people were, because that's who need us. And so we just want to make sure everybody knows that if there's something that you need, even if it's a question and you don't even think or even know if you need to be in our facility, we can give you the referrals. We can give you resources. We're open 24/7. The phone number here is on this slide. And if there's anybody who is watching or who later may reach out, if they would like a presentation, I can do that with their company, or if they would like a slide or two, or if they need some additional information, that's my job. You know, I'm here to help, and I'm here to make sure that everybody has the access to help as they need it.
That's awesome. Brenda, thank you so much for taking us on a virtual tour of your facility. You know, it's so difficult to understand fully what people are going through, especially now with the pandemic. But it's nice to know that there's people like you and the folks that are in your facility that are there to help people heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Okay. Hey, thank you for your time. This has been so informational, so relevant, and so timely. Thank you again for your investment with the Chamber and for what you do in the community every day, Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you. You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good weekend, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
You got it.